right, you assholes.
There's a Fox segment that has been kind of blowing up where Janine Pirro said on Fox News, I believe on The Five, I believe that's what the segment is called.
It's like their version of The View, right? Isn't that what
yeah,
it is?
they where they're around, they do kind of a round table type thing. She said, I don't want a guy who is dressed as a woman who thinks he's a woman, whether he has his thing or not. I don't want him in my bathroom. And this is the important part, the part that stuck out to me. She says, and with a lot more passion than I'm injecting into these words. She says very angrily, I don't want to think about him. I think that's very interesting. When it comes to transgender people, we're often reminded what a small portion of the population we are. Not that makes discrimination okay, but I think it's very interesting that given that we occupy so much of the conservative imagination, they think about us so much. But I think them thinking about us at all, just them being reminded that we exist and that we might be their equals and that we might have access to the same spaces and that we might be afforded certain treatments, that alone is kind of the problem, which is why I've stayed on this point about how like our existence is the issue, because we can't exist as free and equal people. You know, even like, and also frankly, like, I'm just going to put it this way, because I am transgender and I've been transgender. The logical through line being, you know, when I was a child, also transgender. I remember having those feelings as a kid. And I'm just going to say, you know, conservatives who are opposed to affirming the identities of trans children, that's abusive in my mind. Like it just goes back to the point from earlier that this is a movement of people who, as a first order value, have fronted the child abuse in their movement.
Yes,
but it has truly been astonishing to me, just on an emotional level, to watch that happen. But I mean, like, because hurt, as was alluded to earlier, because hurting people is the point. Because they cheer for the liberal tears and so on and so forth. And in this case, liberal frequently means the tears of minorities, it's women, and it's marginalized groups. You people would cheer for the Holocaust. You know, it just has to happen to the right people. That's what you're all about. And us taking issue with that, you know, I'm really sorry, but like, this is going to, if the shoe is ever on the other foot, and you're ever as egregiously disempowered as your beliefs should be, then I think people are going to see how ugly this all was. And just like those women who jeered at black students going first desegregated schools, you know, everybody's going to look at these pictures of you and these photos of you, and they're going to think about how you still live in this country. A bunch of ugly, disgusting, despicable people who cheered for something revolting and morally repugnant. True. So I don't know if that counts as my quote unquote my meltdown or whatever.
I mean,
no, I think that's
right now.
I mean, there's going to be some fallout from that nuclear fucking bomb you just dropped, but you know, I don't really know what meltdown is.
I mean, they will pick anything they want and call it a meltdown, even though if it's clearly not. Because part of what they do is just reframe stuff in their right wing bubble and.
I think I said this to you at one point, Sherrod. I don't know if you know, and I was like, I was kind of nervous about it because I was like, this is how I see it, you know, and I didn't know if you really agreed with it or not, but it was like, it seems like just the existence of trans people challenges so much of the stuff that is at the core of how they see themselves. That it's almost like they almost must try to destroy it. You know what I mean? I
think it's jealousy.
Yeah.
And let me explain this. I think that a lot of people in the conservative space are jealous that their family, their friends would not accept them for who they really are. And they see, even if it's just not even trans people, not gay people, just anybody in a progressive space being able to do whatever they want to do. And they are jealous of that life. And so their only way of coping with that is, since they can't do what they want to do, they have to make sure that no one else can do what they want to do.
Yeah, that's the whole vibe I get from it.
You know what I mean?
The fucking, you know, and the same thing we've talked about with you before, Eric, is like, these people that want to, you know, they try and excuse their bigotry to be like, oh, well, you know, we're just want to judge people based on who they are, not, you know, they're trying to co-opt fucking MLK for this and like the content of their character, not the color of their skin or whatever. And it's like, same as with Chariot, as with Eric, we wouldn't talk about any of this shit if it wasn't for you motherfuckers. Like, we would be talking about movies and fucking, you know, analyzing fucking media.
My
and stuff,
old channel didn't even talk about this stuff at all. My original channel, I had that channel since 2007. And I never covered topics like this because there was no reason to. It was never this
like, if
polarizing.
You mean just doing a movie channel? What the hell?
Yeah.
Who does that?
Chariot has some of the best fucking, most well thought out fucking, like almost like academic level. I mean, in some cases, just academic level, you know, analysis of media that you should fucking listen to. And it like hasn't, you know, I mean, I'm sure sometimes, and I know sometimes the trans perspective is relevant, but like generally, it's not like it's just all about that, right? And yeah, you're fucking missing out. People that want to think of themselves as intellectuals and logic bros and stuff like that. No, you're a fucking moron if you're excluding, you know, people like Chariot because she's trans, or people like Eric because he's gay, or, you know, whatever. Like, you're fucking idiots. There's so much more perspective that you can get outside of your fucking just little fucking.
I've also told people,
Dane, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've also told people,
meltdown.
do not use me as your token. If I show up and I'm part of your podcast, or I jump into your stream or something, and you say something that's completely outside the box, something that's completely fucking wrong, and then people come in and they're like, oh, you're saying homophobic stuff. Don't then go, well, I talked to Eric. No, that is not who I am. I'm not here to excuse any of the stuff you've done. Being those things or doing those things is behavioral. Your connection to another person doesn't change that. Just like somebody that, you know, would beat their wife and whatnot, they can't then, you know, associate with other women and go, well, I don't beat them, so I don't beat women. You know what I mean? No,
I mean,
you still do. You still do it. It doesn't have to happen to everybody. Just because they're not homophobic to me does not mean they're not homophobic to other people.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a weak argument to begin with. It's like saying, hey, these guys can't be racist. They stream with Lauren Chen. It's like, go ahead, Chariot.
In the video I'm going to play at the end of the stream, there's a clip where it's very explicitly fucking bigotry regarding Lauren Chen, and it's like passed off as a joke, and she's there and she laughs at it.
Well, she's paid by Russia. She gets the big bucks.
Right.
I want to draw together two things that were said earlier here, because I think that it's relevant to the issue for young men and being radicalized onto the right. Dane, you made a comment, and Eric, you made a kind of parallel comment that I think are very much alluding to the same place. That the word that I would use for it, maybe not jealousy or that or quite there, but I'd say insecurity. There's an insecurity a lot of guys have.
That's good.
Especially if they're searching for that sense of what it means to be a man and to fulfill that kind of not just social role, but that kind of identity. You know, I think sometimes cisgender people pretend they don't like have gender identities because they're not really on board with trans issues, so they act like it's a dimension of them that doesn't exist. But as full human beings, you know, they talk about gender and think about gender, and they have been for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. It's crazy. Thousands of years people have been thinking about stuff like this, and it's wild to me that people take it in a certain direction. But I'm gonna go out on a weird little limb here, because I remember living in a slightly different time. I'm only 30 years old. I'm not that old, but I remember being a child in a slightly different era before there was a big corner turn for trans acceptance and for making that a big public conversation. You didn't really talk so much about those things, and like the only way that you could be seen, like there was one role to fulfill, and it was like to be treated as a freak in spaces dominated by straight and cisgender people. So the way to exist there frequently for a lot of us was to just suppress it. You just kind of keep it in, and I did until I couldn't anymore. I got to a certain point, and I was like, what I say a lot these days, it's pride or die. At a certain point, I just got to own my stuff, you know. And I think when I was younger, when I was like I want to say like maybe middle school age, I had a lot of really weird conflicting feelings because I was trying to suppress that gender identity stuff. And so I was trying very hard to think about myself as a man and try to control that. And I had a lot of conversations with other boys my age and with older men about the issue, trying to get that sense of security from that. And I kind of started to get this sense that the masculinity of not just myself, which would be somewhat obvious, but of a lot of these cisgender men who don't really have those questions about their identity, is still very frail and very fragile. What it means to be a man. You know, I remember one time I was having a tough conversation, and an older man who I was very close to, a family member, I said to him, you know, well, maybe I get to decide what being a man means to me. And he said to me, he said, you don't. And what that is, if you've ever, a lot of people have had conversations like that with adults when they're younger, where an adult is like they're doing an unkind thing for a kind reason. They're like trying to save you the pain of running into a social problem, so they inflict it on you. Mothers do this to their daughters a lot. It's a big like you know, this is just the way the world works, and you just have to accept it. So conform
like,
to
mothers
this.
might like tell their daughters, like, you know, you don't want to come off like too smart because some men will get turned off by that type of thing.
Yeah,
you know.
It's there's a lot of gender related things like that in our society, and I think a lot of these men and these young people in general are insecure. So it's, for young men, it's an issue compounded. But I think also for older guys, there's this sense of like, you not just that you will feel inadequate if you do not live up to certain standards, you will be judged to be inadequate. You will be criticized and found wanting by your peers, male and female. So you might fail in your romantic relationships. You might fail in your friendships. You might disappoint your father. You know, your children might not. And
that's just the way it is. That's the way it is in the world. You know what I mean?
It's tough. That there's a real fear there. But if I could, as far as the jealousy thing goes, if I could reach across to those people and tell them one thing, it would be that, you know, even if you really fucking hate my identity, I gotta say, it's way easier in a certain sense for me to be out and to take that disdain from you than it would be for me to suppress it and to just keep it, just ball it up inside and just keep it all unprocessed and painful in there. It's way easier to just wear it.
If I can, I think I can relate to that, and not obviously not like the specific gender sense, but like doing YouTube has shown me that, you know, because I've talked about before, I did years of like, you know, pretty intensive trauma work right before I basically was finishing it up whenever you know, it's never going to really end, but, you know, the most intensive spot, the foundation, trauma therapy and stuff before I started YouTube. And if I had not done that, I would be just exposed nerve endings that were totally vulnerable to the things that people say about me all the time, in every fucking video, every fucking day, in my filtered comments. You know, they say it in chats. I'm like, this shit would actually affect me to a degree, fucking absurd degree, if I had not become comfortable, not just comfortable, but like decide who I wanted to be, build myself into that, and then put myself out there. And I see that that's why I know it's insecurity, because the types of comments that we get are like, you're saying what would hurt you if someone said that about you. You know what I mean? And it's like, it doesn't have any effect on me because I'm fucking so far from where you are about how you feel about yourself. That
what are you saying? You're a soy boy beta male?
That literally doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if that really came across what I was trying to say there. But
I would also argue that the reason why a lot of them, and I believe this, see gay people or trans people, anyone that's queer, as fetishes or things that just need to stay in the bedroom, is because that's how they participate in that. That's how they do it, right? So when they want to do things like, you know, have, without being too vulgar about it, I guess, because I don't want to go down that route, but when they want to have like a threesome where another guy comes over and is with them and their wife, they want to do that and have that experience in the privacy of their home, but then they don't want to express that outwardly. Yes. You know what I mean? They don't want to be bisexual. They don't want to be gay or whatever. Yeah.
Nick Ricciuto has spent a lot of time on YouTube talking shit on people's lifestyles and stuff, and then come to find out he'd been, you know, having some kind of open relationship with his fucking wife and stuff. And it's like, not judging that. I'm just judging the hypocrisy of it.
Yeah. But I'm saying like they view all of it as a kink because that is as far as they're willing to take it. You know what I mean? They don't want to explore what that identity looks like outside of that bubble, because that would break the foundation of the nuclear family and all of these things that they've been told their entire lives. It's too difficult. It is too difficult for them to go, hey, I might be gay, I might be bi, I might be trans, or I might be one of these other flavors in the world that we have now. They don't want to even explore that, because not only would they have to face their families and their friends and be honest about who they are, but they also have to face it within themselves. And I think that's a big hurdle for them, because admitting that's a big issue. When I was younger, and back in the 1800s, when I was younger, one of the things that I used to do, because I would be taken to church with my family, you know, we went to church every Sunday, every Wednesday, is I literally struggled with my sexuality, because I would pray that I wasn't gay when I was a teenager. Like, I don't want to be this thing, because I didn't know any other gay people. I didn't even know what it was at that point, because I had no exposure to it. So I internalized that, and it took me a couple of years before I started to really go, you know what, this is who I am. You know, this is something that I need to accept and move forward with it. And I was much happier for that. But I believe that a lot of them live in that bubble of trying their best to like push it away, shove it away, which is why we see so much rage, so much anger, so much hatred.
That brings us to a perfect example of this, in my opinion, because like I said earlier, I just caught up yesterday to, you know, right after the election, there was a certain fella who had tweeted, you know, your body, my choice, right?
Oh, yes.
Fella named Nicholas J. Fuentes.
They're all liars and grifters. They just want their paychecks to put money in their bank account. That's their grift.
Hey guys, sorry, I have to go.